Welcome to All New Look Back in Amber, the official podcast from us Newport County fans. From exclusive interviews to interesting inside insights, since 2010, we've been the best place to be for all things audio. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, I'm Lamsie, and this is the legendary mid-season review.
I'm the legendary Stephen, and I'll take us through month by month.
I'm the not so legendary Luke, and I'll be looking for the guys' thoughts on the goalkeeper, defence, midfield and attackers.
Never miss out by following us wherever you find this podcast. Listen at 2pm on a Sunday, 7pm on a Wednesday, and after all League 2 home matches. And at strange days like these, and weird times over the festive season. So make sure you check out the socials as well.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.
Newport City Radio.
Okay, down to business. Who is that?
That's Week in Great Radio.
I know,
great podcast.
We've got a guest.
We have a guest.
It's about time we had a different variety of guests on this show, and we're starting off the mid-season as we mean to go on for the rest of the season. Kieron, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. How are we?
Really, really good. Give me the lowdown then. So what have you been doing in terms of Newport County content?
In terms of Newport County content, there's a few things I've been doing. I contribute to a lot of the, fan-made content groups that, promote the club and put things out there that really try and help out the club grow and all this other stuff. But in terms of individual stuff, I am part of, again, a few other groups that do stuff related to the EFL and League 2 mainly. And I take the time to, make content for the club and make content around the club just to get the name out there more. And whether it be videos, podcasts, articles and all this stuff, it's a really fun thing that I do. And I'd like to say it hopefully helps the club out with promotion at least a little bit. Yeah,
every little helps. We're about to ruin the fun for you by inviting you on to Look Back in Amber. The mid-season review, we love this bit. It's always good fun to do. And as always, we're going to do it in a strategic way. Stephen, what are we starting off with?
We're going to start off with the month of August. But before we talk about it, shall we hear from Chris Chappell?
I think we should.
Hello there, Hello. Chris Chappell with you again. Coming up are my moments of the month, running, rather unsurprisingly, from the sun-kissed warmth of August all the way through to dark, damp December. Here we go. After a sobering opening day defeat at Accrington, 3 league wins sent Newport County up to 6th in the table by the end of the season's first month. However, heroics in the League Cup caught the headlines, and Kieron Rye's 96th-minute header to take Premier League Brentford to penalties was my highlight in August. Wood finds Lewis on the left. Curling cross, right, headed in! And Newport County have equalised! Right on 96 minutes! Kieron Rye with a beautiful header! And Adam Lewis, the architect of yet another Newport County goal. What a roar here at Rodney Parade! The Late Late Show as Brentford's opener is cancelled out with just seconds remaining of added time. Wow, Stephen.
Well, unbelievable. This team, they always fight to the end, don't they? We see it time and time and time again. And I reckon they deserve that as well. What a time with Kieron Rye, I think, getting first goal for Newport County. It's such a big game like this. Incredible scenes here at Rodney Parade.
See, that's what we should use to introduce Kieron, shouldn't it? Who are you? Who are you? But we wouldn't be that rude.
Yeah, don't know why I was shouting so much in that commentary there. I think I was a bit excited. Yeah, so Newport, as Chris said, they began the month even with an away defeat to Accrington Stanley, losing 3-0. It was the first time that they'd lost an opening day fixture since losing by the same score to Mansfield in August 2018. They won their first home league match 4-0 against Doncaster Rovers. In the EFL Cup, Newport beat League 1 Charlton Athletic 3-1 in round 1. And as we just heard there, they held Premier League Brentford to a 1-1 draw thanks to a Kieron Rye 96-minute leveller. But Newport lost 3-0 on penalties. Lewis Payne joined the club on loan from Southampton on the 11th of August. In League 2, Newport ended the month in 6th place, 1-3, lost to 4-12 against 8. Will Evans had a good month, scored 4 in the league and the cups. So I'll come to our guest Kieron first. What was your highlight of the month?
Highlight of the month. It was very eventful opening month. I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. But personally, I can't say anything other than the 4-0 win against Doncaster. Very rarely do you see, even in just football, but especially in League 2, a team being 3-0 up after half an hour or so. It was one of those games where it almost felt like a fever dream. I didn't feel like I was actually watching the game of football. It just kind of happened, and, it was one of the things where I was worried at half-time and all this stuff that if we can score 3 in a half, who knows, they could score 3 in a half, but it was a solid second half performance and all this kind of stuff, and it was a really good way to start off the league season at home.
Yeah, it was a really good match. I think, like you said, in that first half an hour, it just seemed like everything they touched turned to gold, didn't it? And and like you said, they sorted it out really, really well in the second half. So I'll come to the man on my right here, Luke Lewis. What was your moment for the month of August?
Just before going to my moment of the month of August, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but you just mentioned the last time we lost on the opening day was against Mansfield in the 2018-19 season. Yep. Was that the same year we got into the playoffs?
Good question. Not sure.
I think it was 18-19.
Is he taking this off script already?
Yeah, he is.
He's okay.
There's something to look out for. Lose on the opening day, potentially get in the playoffs.
Possibly,
there's something to look out for.
Yeah.
But my moment of the month, there's got to be only one for me, and it's that Brentford game. You could hear the excitement in you and Chris's voice there. I think you said he broke our sound levels there, Chris, when Kieron Rice scored. I remember you, when Kieron Rice scored, you were up, you were hugging me, you were dancing in the commentary box. And I think we deserved something out of that game. The way we played, I think we were absolutely phenomenal. And I think we defended really, really well. And for Kieron Rice to come on, 18, 19-year-olds, still trying to make his way into the professional game, I think that was a really, really good moment for him and for Newport County as a whole. But we won't talk about what happened after that goal.
Yeah, and I think it said a lot about the Newport performance that Brentford had to bring the big guns on. I mean, they did play a pretty strong side, all things considered. There's lots of internationals on that pitch, and so I'll come on to my moment in a minute. But Mr. Lamsdale, what was your moment of the month for August?
Well, you'll probably hear a lot of off-the-field stuff from me. Hopefully it's entertaining for the listeners.
It still
because I hope so, because I like chatting the story of how Newport City Radio's fitting into the picture as well.
Yep.
And we went into August with a brand new contract, so continuing Look Back in Amber, continuing the NCR warm-up, and we'll wait to start with Tinty and the Bucket Hats. So if you're going to start a brand new season, you start with Tinty and the Bucket Hats, and thank you to the guys for doing that. And it was, even though I was probably very happy at that point because we knew where we stood for another 12 months, obviously the AGMs were starting to come in, and we'd found out earlier that the club was not probably in the position that we kind of thought it was when we spoke to people previously in the last season.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That's very insightful. Yeah, for me, Luke's just kind of alluded to it as well, is that Kieron Rice goal against a Premier League side, almost with the last kick of the game. Yeah, and it got me out of my seat. What a way to get your first ever professional goal as well. I thought it was a brilliant moment for me. Yeah, so that's August completed. So we'll move on to September, I think, now. So as we did with August this year, from the maestro, Chris Chappell.
September was a struggle. As injuries blew holes in Graham Coughlin's first 11, defensive options were scarce, and the home humbling by Bradford City laid bare County's problems. Here, Andy Cook completes his hat-trick. Cross in towards the middle, Cook's header, and it's into the far corner. He's completed his hat-trick right at the end. Bradford City have their fourth of the afternoon. And if it wasn't over already, that surely ends the match as a contest. Andy Cook, who hadn't scored all season and had been suffering with injury, is back with a bang today with a hat-trick to make it 4-1. Well, that's a superb header.
Yeah, brilliant header. I mean, I'm sure it's a good day for him, really. He's got his hat-trick, but not so much a good day for Newport County, I suppose. Well, there's a couple of minutes left now. The results in material are 3-1, 4-1. Don't really make that much of a difference. It's still a bad defeat in my eyes.
Stephen Howell there sounded not as happy as he did in the last commentary. I think we'll all agree. Yeah, so I'll just go through the month quickly. Yeah, obviously we begun the month, it was the transfer window, the end of the transfer window. So Seb Palmer-Holden got injured, so we recruited Ollie Thomas from Bristol City, and Matt Baker rejoined us on loan as well from Stoke. So in League 2, we started the month with a draw against AFC Wimbledon. They didn't win a match in September, drew 2, lost 3, lost against Crawley, Bradford as we just heard, Salford away. So they ended the month 17th in League 2, played 5, drew 2, lost 3, 4-6 against 13. Omar Bogle had a good month, scoring 3 goals. And the month ended with a really big moment for the club, which I will come into on my moment of the month. So I'm going to mix it up. Luke Lewis, what was your moment of the month?
Not a positive moment of the month, but one that I think we need to get into: injuries. And I think this first half of the season for me, you can split it up into 2 parts. When we have had the injuries, and as you just rightly said, then as performed in September, when we had the likes of Matty Baker was still out, you know. You had Declan Drysdale just come back home. Bogle just came back from injury. You know, you've got some really Harry Charsley when was injured. Adam Lewis, I think, got injured in that month, and you've lost some really key players, and I think that really hampered our form. I think if you look at our form from when we have had injuries and when we haven't had injuries, I think they are chalk and cheese. You know, when we haven't got injuries, you can see we have really poor form. But then when we don't have these injuries, when we have these players fit and available, I think you can see the form as we seen, as you mentioned, at the end of August. We were 6th, did you say, at the end of August? That was when we had Carl Jameson fit.
Yeah,
when we had pretty much the whole team fit. We ended up in 6th.
Yeah, we were looking quite good at the start, weren't we?
And then we lost all these key players, and then the wheels fell off a little bit. So for me, moment of the month is not a good one, was losing the amount of players that we did.
Yeah, Kieron, what was your moment of the month for September, please?
I mean, in terms of on the pitch, there's not much that I can really sit there and overly say and be optimistic about, because it was a tough month for reasons that we've already covered. The injuries were absolutely bizarre, and one of the moments of the month for me was the fact that we were above 23rd, given the fact that I had said, you know, if we could stay above 23rd, I'd be happy, and we were above it. So that was one of the moments. But in terms of the moment of the month, more because of the occasion in, you know, my kind of personal standpoint, it was Salford away. We have an absolutely awful kind of record against Salford. Don't think we've ever really won against them, especially not away. So it was one of the things of, I went there when Salford, I believe they were winless in 8 or so. So it was one of the things where you'd go there with a bit of hope that we could pull out some results, because the games previous to it, we were already close to actually picking up some points or stuff, but things didn't go our way. But we had lost, and, you know, it's really unfortunate we had picked up a loss, but it was one of the ones where, and it's been a lot of the circumstances a lot of the time during the season, is that we were pretty good for a good majority of the season, or rather of the game, but didn't end up winning it. So Salford, for the circumstances of it being my first away day of the season, it was, you know, interesting in that regard, but also because it was a really close game and it could have gone, you know, either way if it wasn't for certain key moments in the game that unfortunately, you know, didn't go our way, and it went Salford's.
Yeah, brilliant. Mr. Lambsdale, what was your moment of the month?
In the studio, probably one of the most difficult interviews that we've ever done on Look Back in Amber, and probably one of the most trickiest for the guests that we had. We had Paul Max and Colin Everett in here. Obviously representatives of the process that was going through at the time, working out whether who should be the preferred bidder at that point. Lots of discussion on social media, lots of anxiety out there as well. And yeah, they stepped up and they came in here and they spoke fluently, clearly, calmly, and that's a difficult thing to do, because fans were having lots of questions at the time, and if they put a word wrong, that could have opened up all sorts of can of worms. So I just want to place on the record, I'm really grateful for Paul and Colin for coming in, the time they gave us, and I thought in the end was a really cool piece of Look Back in Amber.
Yeah, it was a good interview, wasn't it? And like you said, they gave up their time, and I thought they spoke really well. Going on from that, my moment of the month was obviously on the 28th of September. There was a Supporters Trust meeting. Hugh Jenkins was back to take over the club, making an initial £500,000 investment for 52% stake in the club. The voting was 464 members, 455 voted for, 8 against, and 1 spoiled vote. For me, it was a unique moment for me because I've never been involved in a football club and I've never had a say in the club's future. And it was just, it wasn't lost on me what a big moment that was. And I was, like you said, I was anxious right up until the point that I walked into the room. And then I started to hear the guys talking, Hugh as well. Then I started to feel a bit better then. I was starting to feel a bit more relaxed. Tim Traves was like, oh, it's fine, it's going to go through. And obviously it did. And I think it was just such a huge moment for the club. Kieron, what did you think of that?
Oh, it's an absolutely monumentous moment for the club, isn't it? And it's one thing that Newport do that is absolutely fantastic, is that the club are so willing to get the fans involved and have people, that wouldn't really consider themselves involved in the club, getting them involved in the club, whether that be being part of the trust and everything else to directly support the club in their funding and stuff, and being able to actually have the vote and have the say on, do we want to be, admittedly taken over by Hugh Jenkins, being able to have Hugh Jenkins there, portray his ideas, and then allow us to have the decision to either say yes or no or everything else in between, was, something that is absolutely monumentous. And it's something that a lot of football clubs, I'm sure would absolutely love to have the ability to do in that retrospective fan involvement. So, other than that, I think, like you said, Hugh Jenkins spoke, fantastically, really clear, said what he wanted to say, said what he needed to say, and it meant a majority did say yes to him taking the involvement in the club, and he's now, I believe it's close, isn't it, to actually being a confirmed thing, which is absolutely phenomenal news. And it's just one of those things where it's really kind of heartwarming to have a circumstance where we can have a say in our club and we can kind of direct the future, whether that be for one reason or another. So it was a fantastic month off the pitch and all of this stuff, but on the pitch, the less we say about it, admittedly, the better.
Yeah, Luke Lewis, your thoughts on the vote?
I just think, as you guys have just said, it's a monumental night for the club. I'm sure Colin, it was either when he came on with us, so he said on social media, we might have even said on the night, it's one of the biggest nights in the club's history. Yeah. I think it's the biggest night since they voted for the trust. Because
I think I said that too. It's like one of those big moments, like staying up was a big moment. And it was like one of the, since the Reformation, it was probably the fourth maybe big moment that the club have had.
Yeah, the word I think I'm going to use is the takeover is imminent, and that's what Colin put on, it was either Twitter or Facebook. I think Colin's been really, really good on social media in terms of...
As much as he can.
Yeah.
Yes. What can you say when you set your hands and it's going through due process? What more can you say?
Yeah,
and he was very clear to say that we did have two very strong bidders, which really grateful for having that as well. But the process was the process, and this is what happens when you decide to implement a change. You put the rules of the process in, and they were followed.
Yeah, and it's not going to be an easy thing at the end of the day, is it? To go for a process of owning a football club and buying a football club and transferring ownership. So
and I don't know how it differs, because obviously normally it goes from one sole owner to another sole owner, but in this instance it's going from a fan trust model into a hybrid model. Now, does that affect the process at all? Does that delay things? Because they might have to go through Supporters Association, which I know Colin said that they've gone through the FSA and things like that. So
I think that they were in from the start, weren't they? So they've been consulted as part of the process. So I think it's just it's all going through the motions. Probably not fast enough for us.
No,
but I think it's all happening.
It takes as long as it takes.
At the end of the day, you've got to. These things, like we've said, they're massive for the club, one of the biggest days, and you've kind of got to take the time to think about this. And if it takes too much time or loads of time in our regard, then it has to happen.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to October now. So here's what Chris Chappell had to say.
The month of October saw the downturn bottom out, and there were a couple of victories to give everyone encouragement. It was certainly hit and miss approaching Halloween, especially against Walsall, where backup keeper Johnny Maxted failed to impress. The Exiles took the lead 3 times but could not hold on. This thunderous early strike from Bryn Morris was the pick of the goals. And it could get better with Morris. Oh, what a great goal! Smashed in from the edge of the area. Bryn Morris, the man who arrived from Grimsby in the summer. Inside 4 minutes, smashes Newport County into the lead. Second goal of the season. And what an incredible hit it was. The goalkeeper was covering that near post, but there was so much power and venom on the shot, it beat him. All ends up, and it's Newport County 1, Walsall 0.
Yeah, Bryn Morris, he read the script there, didn't we? We were just saying that we fancied a win, and he popped up at the great moment there. Brilliant strike from Morris. Yeah, like you said, second goal of the season. He doesn't do tap-ins, does he? Yep, that's my quote for the season. He doesn't do tap-ins.
Does he?
So Newport, they began the month with a 2-1 home win over Colchester United, which ended a 5-match winless run. Then they lost 3 of the next 4 games against Harrogate, Swindon and Notts County, and then drew at home to Walsall. They finished the month beating Gillingham 2-0 away, which was the first away win since August. Will Evans and Omar Bogle had good months. They both scored 3 goals each in the league. Evans had 4 overall. In the EFL Trophy, Newport beat Cheltenham 2-0 away. Nathan Wood got his first senior goal, but then they went and lost 1-0 to West Ham United under-21s. In the league, Newport finished the month in 19th place, played 6, won 2, drawn 1, lost 3. So, Kieron, what was your moment of the month for October?
I mean, simply put, Gillingham away. It's the second time that I visited that ground. Visited it last season. I believe we won 2-1 then.
Well, you were lucky, charm.
Yeah, I might be. In terms of Gillingham away, definitely. I'll be definitely sure to go to a lot more Gillingham aways. But yeah, 2-0, fantastic result to end a really difficult month in terms of form we were in. And the 2 penalties taken by Omar Bogle were fantastic. There were always the debate on if one of them was a pen, but that's already long gone and happens. It was fantastic to pick up a win against a Gillingham side that were solid in the league up until then. And I think one of the things that kind of unfortunately put the downright on the game and the result was the fan that was, or the fan, I'll put that in massive quotation marks, the person who was at the ground that did the gestures towards Bogle after scoring one of the goals. It was really wrong, and it's way too far for anything to even be considered in the right regard. But I suppose the nice thing about it is that Gillingham and Newport both took action really quick, got him banned, got him fined and all this stuff. So it was a nice end in that regard to what was a horrible story and what was way too far.
Yeah, it was really good at the way people kind of rallied around around Omar Bogle. Luke Lewis, what was your what was your moment of the month for October? I nearly forgot what month we were in.
My moment of the month for October is the Walsall game. It was just one of the most bonkers games of football I think I've ever seen. I'm sure from a neutral perspective, it might have been a really entertaining game of football. We went 1-0 up. Through Bryn Morris, who you just hear there, thanks to Chris Chappell. He scored 2 really, really good goals. I'm sure you can have a goal of the season competition with the goals he scored this season. Bryn Morris, be looking forward to seeing that compilation that Kieron put together at the end of the season for Bryn. Really looking forward to that one. But I think picking up wins as well and picking up points is really, really important that month. After the Swindon game, after we lost 2-0 to Swindon, we dropped to 20th. We said at the start of the season we were in the dizzying heights of 6th, and then we've dropped all the way down to 20th. Whether we were sleepwalking into a relegation battle I don't think that's fair because of where we are now. Now we've got everyone back, but at that time, we were there was a few. I'm sure there as well. I remember seeing there was a few questions being asked about Graham Coughlin, and I think he's answered them quite emphatically in the weeks and months since.
Yeah. Ian Lamsdale, what was your moment of the month for October?
Yeah, again, we've had some amazing guests, haven't we, just this season alone. Graham Coughlin right at the very beginning of it. Louis's been here, the media manager, so good to have Louis in the studio. Mark O'Brien, obviously with the book as well. Fantastic book.
Brilliant.
Great read and a great guest. We spent a lot of time talking to Mark. It was really good. The one guest that I'm yet to secure, actually on the show, is a person I managed to speak to in this month, and that's the legend, and that's a word that gets we played about it at the start of the show. Genuinely legend, Norman Parcell.
Yeah.
And it'll be my moment of the month in the next month in a second, but in the prelude to that, went for a couple with Norman over a coffee house in Newport, and Norman talking a little bit of business. But what I didn't realise was the whole scope of county in the community, the independence away from the club, which is a bit like us.
Yeah.
So we're all, even Kieron, what you do, we're all supporters of the club. We're all linked with the club, and I thought county in the community was the club, and then Norman politely and gently told me the story that it's not, and just everything that they do, that he does. He was my first point of contact over Newport County when we did the warm-up. He was not using the microphone to get the kids to ask the players questions over the marquee. We brought that in, and it just changed the whole perception of it. And he could have been really funny over it, and he wasn't. He was great. And since then we've had lots of things in common. He was playing at the same time that my cousin was playing for Newport County as well, and he's praised my cousin just absolutely down to the ground, which is just a beautiful thing to do. And you can see that he means it as well, and I cherish every moment I spend with Norman, and I can't wait to get him. I will put the invite in, and we will try and get him on here. But my couple with Norma. I've got my Messi's and Ronaldi's all messed up like from the last podcast. Was the definite highlight for October.
For me, I think it was Nathan Wood getting his first goal in that game against Cheltenham. I think he's come from the Welsh leagues, and I think he's been in and out of the side a little bit, and for him to just get his first senior goal, I thought was a really, really nice moment for him. So there we go.
I've got all the time in the world for Nathan Wood, and he's got a really nice story of course, being in the academy of Newport up until a time, and then he went into the Welsh leagues, and he's now back, and it was phenomenal to see, and it's definitely in my contention for moment of the month. It's a really heartwarming story, and like I said, I've got all the time in the world for Nathan Wood.
Okay, we're heading into November now, so before I run you through it, let's hear from Chris Chappell.
November saw County climb back up towards the safety of mid-table. Runaway League 2 leaders Stockport arrived at Rodney Parade on a run of 12 straight wins, and all the talk was about them setting a new league record. But Shane McLaughlin had something to say about that, as did our very own Stephen Howell.
Evans holds the ball up. Morris, ball over the top. Payne looking to get onto this. Palmer Holden's in the middle. Evans is arriving in the area. Oh, same towards Palmer Holden. Evans headed away. Comes to Shane McLaughlin in the area. What a goal! Newport County 2. Stockport County 0. Shane McLaughlin with his fourth goal of the season. Controlled the ball lovely and blasted it into the corner. Wow.
Yes, Stephen Howell on commentary there. Very good. He sounds like a right pro, that man. He should get a job.
If it was the great man himself, wow.
Yes. So, all right. So, November, we started the month with a 0-0 home draw against MK Dons. Followed that with a 2-0 away defeat to Mansfield. Newport then beat Stockport 2-1 ending their unbeaten run with goals from Bryn Morris and Shane McLaughlin. That was then followed by an away win at Morecambe. Seb Palmer Holden getting his first goal since returning from injury. In the EFL Trophy, Newport lost 1-0 at home to Bristol Rovers, and they exited the competition. In the FA Cup, Newport faced Oldham at home, 2 Shane McLaughlin goals, getting the win. Newport finished the month in 15th place, played 4, 1-2, draw 1, lost 1, 4-4 against 4. Shane McLaughlin had a good month, scoring 3 goals, 2 in the Cup, 1 in the league. So I'm going to go Mr. Lamsdale. What was your moment of the month for November?
Well, following on from the conversation with Norman, the reason why I was meeting him was to talk about the Utilita football event that was taking place in this month, in November, and it was really nice to be asked to go there and supply some music. Obviously, much the same as what we do with the warm-up.
Yeah, didn't you have 2 superstar guests?
That's exactly why I wanted to put it down there, because a great event, and thank you very much. Great to see the cups there as well. But
it's not the closest an Everton fans can ever get to a cup in
he used that one back in the time as well. So no, it was great, and thank you both for coming over and taking questions, because obviously the players were training in the morning, so you two stepped in and we turned you into gods of broadcasting, which obviously you are. But the kids got to ask you questions, which was great.
They did.
And then we brought the players in the afternoon there, so we had a slightly more chilled afternoon than we did in the morning, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a really, really great event, though, and I think I said at the time, it's something that Newport County do really, really well. And David James, who was the actual superstar there, he even praised the club for what they were doing. He was really impressed with that. So, and
I would like to say it was the windiest November day that I've ever seen in my 50 years. So they took where it's supposed to be played on the cabbage patch. They actually put the football stuff in the tunnel to keep it protected. Talk about not getting a break with the weather, but an amazing occasion, an amazing event, and thank you both for stepping up and stepping in.
No problem, it's a pleasure. Kieron, what was your moment of the month for November?
I mean, it's a lot of on the field stuff. We had some incredibly difficult games when you look at table positions and all this stuff, and we came out the other end really well. But in terms of the game, I'll say was my moment of the month is winning against Morecambe away 2-1. It was an interesting one. There's I suppose, added bit of tension in that fixture because of the playoff final that we had those years ago, and they were unbeaten at home in the league up until that point. So we had obviously come off the win against Stockport, which ended their win run, and it was really nice to be able to beat 2 unbeaten runs in the matter of a few days. And it showed real character from the team in the way that they had just come off of a really intense win against the league leaders, and came out a few days later with exactly the same intensity, the same intent, and came out with 3 points at what was a really difficult place to go. And I credit every single fan that made the journey up there on that Tuesday. It's a very long trip, especially for a Tuesday night game. So big credit to that. But in terms of the moment of the month, it has to be that. And I believe it was Seb Palmer-Holden's first goal since coming back as well. So it was really nice to see that too.
Yeah, Luke Lewis, what was your moment of the month for November?
FA Cup against Oldham. I think I said to you guys off air about our love affair with cup competitions. We beat Oldham 2-0 at Rodney Parade, and then obviously we've gone on to beat Barnet in the FA Cup second round, thanks to a 4-1 win in a replay. Now we play Eastleigh in a couple of weeks' time, our first appearance in the third round of the FA Cup since the 2020-2021 season.
Yep, brilliant. Did I ask you, Mr. Lamsie? Yes, I did. Okay, so we can...
Have you given yours?
Oh, mine? Oh, yeah, I forgot about myself. Sorry. For me, it was beating Stockport at home, 2-1. They were on a really big unbeaten run. 2 really nice goals as well. For me, it was beating Stockport 2-1. Yep. Now we can move on to December. So before I say anything, let's hear from Chris Chappell.
With Christmas closing in, the FA Cup took centre stage with some tough ties against clubs from the league below. After Oldham were knocked out on home soil, round 2 brought Barnet down the M4. This Shane McLaughlin goal looked to have won it, but the Bees were later beaten at their place in the replay, live on national TV. Clark, right hand side, low ball in, tucked home by McLaughlin, who's the man in form in front of goal. He's got his 5th of the season. And seconds after Morris's free kick almost broke the deadlock, it's McLaughlin who does. And it's Newport County 1, Barnet 0. So that's my selection box of the season so far. Shane's strike against Stockport, perhaps the standout moment. Here's to some more stunners in the new year. Have a great Christmas, everyone.
And you have a great Christmas, Sue and Fleur, Chris. Thank you very much for that. So I'll just run us through the month quickly. Yeah, we began the month with a 1-1 draw at home to Barnet in the second round of the FA Cup. They then went on to win the replay 4-1 to reach the third round and face Eastleigh at home. In the league, Newport lost 2-1 at Tranmere and drew 1-1 at home to Grimsby. It was a good month for Lewis Payne. He got his first senior goal in the FA Cup against Barnet. And Omar Bogle so far has got 2 goals. So as it stands, Newport is 17th in League 2, played 22, won 7, drawn 5, lost 10, 4-32 against 39. So, Kieron, what was your moment of the month for December?
I mean, given another few days and it may change, but as of now, I'll say Barnet at home as opposed to Barnet away. And it was because of the whole, I suppose it was the good frustration in a way. We'd had these results that were absolutely fantastic and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, you're playing a game against a team that is a division below you but doing well, and you expect, especially at home, to go through and end up beating them relatively convincingly. But of course we had come out there probably second best for the majority of the game, and there was the kind of, in my eyes, the grit and determination for us to actually get that replay. And I suppose it was my moment of the month, not because of the result. The result, wasn't fantastic looking at it now, but when you look at what happened in the replay, I think it built a lot of extra atmosphere for it.
Luke Lewis, what was your moment of the month for December?
So Kieron's just gone for Barnet at home. I'm going to go for Barnet away.
Okay.
I think there was a lot of pressure considering the way the Barnet ended the game. Scored really, really late on. Potentially could and should have won a Rodney Parade. So there was a lot going into, a lot of momentum behind Barnet. Obviously, they're doing really, really well in the league.
Yeah, very biased build-up on the TV, I noticed.
It was.
Not like us, who are non-biased.
Obviously unbiased here at a Newport County podcast.
Yes.
Obviously unbiased. But yeah, for us to go there, and you mentioned earlier about winning 4-0 at home, to score 4 goals away from home is even rarer, and for it to be on national telly as well. So
even in the fashion, the goals were, they were all really well taken team goals.
Yeah, a lot of counter-attacking I noticed, and that's kind of what something I noticed in the first game as well. So
you had Barnett's goal that was interesting as well, and that could be a moment of the month on its own.
Diego Maradona-esque.
It was.
That's my moment of the month.
Okay, and finally, leave the best to last. Ian Lamsdale, what was your moment of the month for December?
Well, we still got to hear yours.
I see but it's not about me. It's not about you're the star, not me.
I see. Well, talking of stars and talking about ITV, maybe controversially not covering themselves with glory with their coverage of that match. They did come to our rescue on Sunday and did a little piece on the toy appeal.
They did.
So, and again, that is my moment of the month. It's something that I spoke about on the last podcast, and I can't say it enough, so I am going to make it my moment of the month in December. County fans, when you need them, they stand up and they're there for you.
Yeah.
We needed toys to go to families that haven't got a lot this Christmas, and they brought toys wrapped in bags and everything, and it was phenomenal. And thank you very, very much. 200 families are going to be much better off this Christmas because of what that appeal did, and that includes Newport County fans. So that's why that is my moment of the month.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, and my moment of the month is I went on my first away trip ever to Tranmere Rovers the other week, even though the result didn't go our way.
Did you travel for miles and miles today just to see the Rovers play?
I did, yes. Yeah, and I just loved it. I just loved it. Was so nice to actually be in the ground, just watching the game. Had a little drink of coffee before. And it was just, and the atmosphere in the away end was so brilliant. They were even out singing the old Tranmere ground, for most of the match until they scored.
I'm sure the wind would have taken up a bit of the noise as well.
Yeah, the wind was interesting.
See, because funny enough, me and Luke were there as well, and I can't speak for Luke, but I don't quite remember it that way. And I think the photo of the three of us freezing, not looking happy at all in the second half, enduring what we thought was going to be a great game, but then it got to the second half.
Yeah,
doesn't quite tie with what you're saying here, Mr. Henry.
But come on, it was.
He's rewritten it, and that's
fine. The whole thing about football is, it's part of the experience.
Yeah, you enjoy the experience, win, lose or draw. It's following your team, isn't it?
Enjoy the experience, lose the reality.
Yeah. So that was my moment of the month for December, and there we go. So Luke, what's coming next?
Coming up next, we'll be talking about player positions, and I'll be taking you through goalkeeper, defence, midfield, and attackers.
Do you need help saving for big events like planning a family? Newport Credit Union will help you through it. To find out more and see how they can help you and to join them, search online for Newport Credit Union.
Right here, right now.
Newport City Radio.
So yeah, obviously in the mid-season and end-of-season review, we always take you through position by position, get the guys' thoughts. I won't take you through the new transfers. If you want to know who came in the summer, I think we did that in our pre-season preview. So take a little listen to that for who we signed over the summer. So we'll start off with keepers. Now there was always an age-old debate of Nick Townsend or Joe Day. And Graham Coughlin has put all his chips in the Nick Townsend basket. Joe Day went out on loan. Johnny Maxted came in. Stephen.
Hello there.
Nick Townsend as number one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was a debate anymore, was it? We had the debate with Day and Townsend, and for me, there's no debate. Townsend is the number one, and I think that's proved in the amount of appearances that he's made.
Kieron?
I mean, yeah, the question was answered between whether it was Joe Day or Nick Townsend. The obvious answer being Nick Townsend, but you got to credit Johnny Maxted as well. He's a really experienced goalkeeper. He's an absolutely phenomenal keeper, on his day, and he can definitely fit the gloves of Newport. But I absolutely love Nick Townsend and the way he's communicative on the field. Commanding the pitch and just a phenomenal goalkeeper, very good shot stopper as well.
And I think with Johnny Maxted, I spoke to Graham Coughlin after the Cheltenham pre-season friendly, and he said Johnny last season with Northampton obviously got promoted, so he's used to that winning environment. He's really, really good in the dressing room as well. So even though he's a backup goalkeeper, and sometimes that can be, I don't know whether it's a little bit frustrating because every other outfield position you could always come on in the second half or whatever, but keepers, unless they're injured,
it's very rare, isn't it?
It's very, very rare. So I think he's done well. Lambs, do you have any thoughts on the keeping situation?
Yeah, probably a bit different to what you guys are saying in terms of that this time last year we're sat in pretty much the same positions, job by Kieron this year, which is cool. But you couldn't really put a slip of paper between Joe Day and Nick Townsend, and I'm not sure whether we got that this year. I think Townsend is the 8 and 8 number one. They did obviously try and make the change. It potentially didn't work, and they went back to Townsend. And I'm a bit worried that at this moment in time, it's fine as it is. But does Townsend need that level and that quality of goalkeeping, or are we not seeing the best of Maxted? That's the only question that I've got.
I mean, I think, Maxted is, he does a lot more than just on the field stuff like we've suggested. He's, got promoted from this league. He kind of knows how to influence a dressing room and influence the players otherwise. But I understand what you mean in terms of just grade A ability. I'd argue there is more of a gap between Nick Townsend and Johnny Maxted than it was between Nick Townsend and Joe Day. You'd almost hope last year at some point that you'd be able to somehow combine Nick Townsend and Joe Day, because they both had very different qualities in that respect. But it's absolutely I still think we're in a situation where we've got two really competent keepers, and I think there is a question of, is Johnny Maxted up to standard? But in the regard of goalkeepers, you don't really see the option of them getting injured. I know Nick Townsend, of course, he has his international duties, and that's when we will inevitably call up on a Johnny Maxted. But I am very much in the kind of mindset that from what I've seen from him, he's a very competent goalkeeper, and I think being a goalkeeper is the hardest position on the field, in the way that any goal that goes in, the main thing that is blamed most of the time is the goalkeeper. So it's one of the things where you've got to have a really strong mindset to play, and I think Maxted has that to a T.
Moving on now to the defence, and as for me, is probably whether it's lack of depth anyway or injuries. I think it's the area that's been decimated most by the injury crisis. So defenders, we got Matty Baker, who has played 12 times this season, his second loan spell from Stokes, played twice for the Wales under-21 to Rodney Parade this season. Ryan Delaney, who's been club captain, has been ever present apart from the one game he missed due to suspension because he got sent off. James Clark, who's got injured and has just come back. Declan Drysdale, whose season's been very, very stop-start with injuries. Carl Jameson, who has played 4 times at the start of the season, and we haven't really seen him since the 15th of August because he got injured against Crewe, but he's close to a return. We've seen him do some running before the Grimsby game on Saturday. Josh Seabury came in, 19-year-old Irish centre-back, started on trial and then did well enough to earn himself a professional deal. Broke his leg against Notts County. Season for him is likely over. Move on to the wing-backs. Adam Lewis came back from Liverpool, 12 appearances, 1 goal, 2 assists for us this season. Very close to return from injury. Matty Bonswell's played 23 times for us, from Newcastle. Mainly from the bench. He got 2 assists, though, in all competitions for County this season. Lewis Payne, who you said on the podcast, Stephen, you're getting more and more impressed with him. He's growing on you. He's developing into that right wing-back role more and more. And then for me, arguably the player of the season so far for me, Shane McLaughlin came in from Salford. There's talk of him potentially getting bids from teams in League One. He's got 5 goals and 4 assists, and he's delivering the FA Cup this season. He's got a few goals and assists in that competition. Kieron, I'm going to start with you. Now, wing-backs. I don't know how you feel about Lewis Payne and Shane McLaughlin playing a left wing-back and right wing-back. Adam Lewis, when he comes back, you'd think he'd start. Where do you fit him in? Who do you drop?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't really think, and this is the really nice thing about having loads of options at wing back, and that we've got the headache of which player do you start. I think, if you're to say in terms of position, because I know Shane McLaughlin's probably been playing left wing back, and I always thought he was a right wing back, but clearly he's been inverted now and again.
I think he's one of those like in the Aaron Lewis mold.
Yeah, definitely.
Compared him to him, or one of us compared him to him in terms of he can play left wing back, right wing back, and in midfield as well. Because I think he was a midfielder when he was at Salford.
Yeah, and I think the solution could be, move Shane McLaughlin to the midfield, and then all of a sudden you can fit Lewis Payne.
Again,
and
who do you drop in midfield?
Who do you drop in midfield? I mean, this will be a thing, you could potentially go into later, but I think the options we've got, there's a lot of the players we've got are all good in different qualities, so I don't think in terms of by default you honestly drop either Lewis Payne or Shane McLaughlin. I think they're both, really competent in what they do, and they've arguably been the most impactful and, beneficial positions on the field. So I don't think you drop either of them unless, of course, injuries and fitness things happen. But at the same time, if we're playing, an opposition that tend to run up and down the field a lot more, or they tend to play a different style that may not fit Lewis Payne or may not fit Shane McLaughlin for whatever reason, you've got Matty Bonswell and you've got Lewis to bring on and kind of be able to change the way they play, because they're all good in their own individual qualities. But yeah, it all really depends what opposition we do play.
And Stephen, looking at the centre-back names we got here: Matty Baker, Ryan Delaney, James Clark, Declan Drysdale, Josh Seabury and Adam Lewis. Only Ryan Delaney hasn't been injured this season.
Yep.
Oh, that's cursed it.
Do you think
that's cursed it?
He's going to get injured now at Wrexham. Do you think we've seen Graham Coughlin's first choice centre-back pairing or trio? Because we know he likes to play with a back three. Do you think Graham Coughlin's had the ability to put out 3 centre-backs that he wants rather than having to have his hand forced due to injury?
Well, I think we're probably close to it now. I think, but for me, Ryan Delaney's been superb. We had a huge Mickey Demetrio-shaped hole in our defence, and he has come in and he has filled it for me with aplomb. He is the leader. He's actually chipped in, hasn't he, with 3 assists. For me, he's been phenomenal. I think, like I said on the last podcast, I'm really loving Lewis Payne. Shane McLaughlin, like you said, 5 goals, 4 assists. Yeah, one interesting thing about the defence is we scored 7 goals this season from the defence. Last season we got 6, so we're slightly better in the defence, and with assists slightly behind. We got 9 assists from the defence and 11 last season at this point. So, yeah, but for me, Delaney's the standout. Just unbelievable.
Anything to add there, Lamsie?
Yeah, I think we did the pre-season. I think Delaney had just been selected as captain for maybe just one game at that point, and there was a question mark of who would be the captain. Yeah, and he's just came in and absolutely clearly nay. But then we didn't know, so absolutely full respect to Ryan Delaney. Also, in terms of what the discussion, I think Kieron, you probably took my thought without obviously me having a chance to say it, but I agree with Kieron absolutely. I think what Graham Coughlin's got now, hopefully, keep using that word, hopefully,
knock wood,
absolutely, is now that he can look at the opponent absolutely and say, right, okay, yes, we know he's got his preferred back three, yes, we got that, but that would be too predictable, wouldn't it? Hopefully now in the second half of the season he can look at the game that the team that he is playing, the opposition, and then play his strongest players to that match, and that'll be really interesting, because I do think that we've seen brilliant glimpses of Coughlin's game management, and that's with his hands tied. Imagine what happens when he's got all the options on, all in front of him. Brilliant. Exciting.
Very, very exciting. And I think when we get Carl Jameson back, I was really impressed with him at the start of the season. Very, very quick, very athletic, and I think he's a left-footed centre-back as well. So I think he was obviously signed as a replacement for Mickey Dimitri, if such thing exists in this world. But I'm really, really excited. Like I said, we've seen him doing some fitness drills before the Grimsby game. I'm sure he might be doing some before the Wrexham game. If not, he'll be doing some before. Maybe he might even return for Forest Green or Boxing. I'm sure we're going to need every single player we can get between now and probably New Year's Day, when the festive period is kind of over. So moving into midfield, we've got Bryn Morris, who, like I said earlier, has got 4 goals, and probably all 4 of those goals could be nominated for Goal of the Month, potentially Goal of the Season. Scott Bennett played 30 games, as well as Bryn Morris. You know what you're going to get with Scott Bennett, reliable in the heart of midfield, really, really good, 7, 8 out of 10 every single game. Harry Charsley, again, the season's been stop-start, started well, alongside Aaron Wildig in midfield, and then I don't know what he did. I think he broke a bone in his foot or something, and he was in a boot, and he's just come back from injury. Again, Aaron Wildig, he's had 1 or 2 little niggles this season, injury-wise. I know he had a back spasm, which is the last thing that kept him out. He's just making his return now. James Waite, who's been with us now, will be 2 years in January, who hasn't really featured as much this season as he has in previous seasons. And the man who we've been given a lot of love for off the pitch, Nathan Word, signed from Penrith, scored his first professional goal against Cheltenham in the EFL Trophy. Kieron, looking at this midfield, apart from Aaron Wildig, who's played the most this season, it looks very much defensive-minded, would you say?
Oh, very much defensive-minded, and, when we're running a back three, I suppose having the extra cover for the defenders is a really important thing, and it is, really important to the way we play, but, we really realistically do run the kind of holding defensive midfielders, whether that be for the reason that we want to get more stability in terms of the back, or whether it's to benefit the press that we've seen, whether it's to benefit the kind of way that these players are able to mark their opposition. And it's usually defensive, but as of now, could it change to Wildig and Bryn Morris? I suppose that gives a lot more balance and a lot more change in the attack to defence in that regard.
Plus with Charlie coming back now, I know he's not, I think he's probably a bit more of a box-to-box, likes to do things in both boxes, but Stephen just spoke about being a little bit more defensive-minded. One player that's kind of stood out for me this season, new signed over the summer, Bryn Morris.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think he's been key alongside Scott Bennett. I know when we'd like to play a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, he was kind of alongside Scott Bennett.
Yeah.
How impressed have you been with
Bryn? He's been phenomenal. I mean, like I said, 4 goals, 1 assist. Yeah, we've been talking about the midfield being more defensive, but at this point, we've scored 8 goals from midfield, which is exactly the same as what we did last year at this point. So the midfield has scored as many goals. But interestingly, I've added Shane McLaughlin into the midfield because I just did. So
just because
I respect the
just
honesty.
because I can. Yeah, because I thought he was originally signed maybe as a midfielder, wasn't he? So with his 4 assists, we've got 13 assists from midfield this season. We only had 3 from midfield last season at this point. So I think, and I was talking about the evolution of the team on the last podcast, that to me is a sign that we are a little bit maybe more creative and getting goals around the pitch a bit more. But yeah, Bryn Morris stand out for me, absolutely. Wildig's been good as well. 1 goal, 3 assists. So yeah, but Bryn Morris, what a signing. Brilliant.
Incredible.
Stephen just spoke about it there, Lamsie, about the evolution of the team and maybe being a little bit more creative. You said when he came in, sort out the issues at the back, get us defensively solid, which I think, bearing all these injuries, he has done. You know, he's saying about a few more clean sheets, but he's still getting some centre-backs back. He's still a little bit low on numbers at the back, especially if he's playing a back 3. Come January, would you like to see that midfield evolve even more to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more adventurous?
Any team wants that, don't they? They want more adventure, more creativity, but
More
they don't want to
goals.
leak goals. So,
Yeah.
so you know, what can you do? I can't say any more than what you've got to say about Bryn Morris. I think for me, potentially signing of the season. And I think if we're talking about Max there a little bit earlier, surely Bryn Morris brings that into the changing room, that experience, that calm head. He just seems to be a real fighter.
You say Shane McLaughlin does that as well.
100%,
So
yeah. But both of
we've
them.
got a lot of leaders in this team, which is
Yeah.
really nice.
And I know that a word that lights up Lewis's eyes. Watching Kieron as I say this, transfers, which we're going to talk about very soon. He loves it.
I do love a good transfer
He does
window
love a good
story.
transfer window. Then let me just very quickly, before we go into that discussion, just say that some of these work in the process. So again, we'll talk about this in transfers, but there's been, obviously, we've mentioned it time and time before, the question marks over the structure behind Flinney, the bringing of a sporting kind of director role, which, we got on great, and we spoke to the sporting director, whose name completely...
Darren Kelly.
Thank you, Darren Kelly. Cheers. A great guy. But it was very clear there was a schism between him and the manager. Nay, it just seems effortless, doesn't it? Is anybody questioning the whole process because of Bryn Morris and Shane McLaughlin and the rest of the players that go in this season?
No, because Graham's mentioned himself, the man Chris Finn
yeah.
is the head of football operations, or is he head of recruitment? He's head
Yeah.
of something like that.
I think he works with Joe and Graham, doesn't he? I think they work together as a trio to identify.
And I know Graham
players.
said that he's worked at the likes. I think he was at Cardiff City, Nottingham Forest. So he's been about some really, really good clubs. And I know Graham said he has a really good eye for talent. And you look at the transfer window, I think pound for pound, the summer one, considering everything, the financial issues, the players that we lost, things like that, I think the summer window, looking back now...
Are we talking about transfers now?
We're talking about
We're
transfers
doing it now, are we?
No, I've just given some thoughts on the summer window. I think, pound for pound, that's one of our best transfer windows in a long time.
Oh,
And I want to bring it up because I wanted to highlight that the players that have come in seem to be pound for pound better than what we've had previously.
No.
There's an argument to be made there, but I think at the back, losing Mickey Dimitri, who's played 300 games
But then
for
you've got Ryan
us.
Delaney.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's real credit to the recruitment, team that we've got, and Graham and everything else in between. The players that we lost, and when you would have looked at the players we had brought in, yes, these players had EFL experience, they had experience within football, but when you compared them to the players we lost, we were, a lot of us were a lot, worried that these players wouldn't be able to kind of fill in the shoes or this kind of thing that the players that had departed had done. And pound for pound, most of these players are on frees, if not loans.
So, Lewis, do you disagree with me and Kieron?
I just think it's a really, really good transfer window.
The naughty question of the episode belongs to me.
Pound for pound, do you agree or not?
Pound for pound, I don't know.
No, because what we lost compared to what we gained, it's incredible. You wouldn't have thought it back in summer, but now looking back at it, it's incredible.
I think you're right, because we were talking about these players when I think we were all a bit unsure about how would they come in and how would they settle in, would they work, would they not, would they? And to be fair, like you said, Kieron, the recruitment has been brilliant.
Just imagine what could be now in January with which
No,
I know we're going to come
now
on
we're
to
in the money.
Now we're in the money,
Like the
yeah.
advert says, we're in the money.
Hang on, those are transfers. Let's come back to transfers. I knew I'd start him off.
I thought we were doing the attack.
Yeah, I was about to say
We are doing the
I
attackers.
feel like we missed a bit.
So before we move on to transfers, there's the key area of the team. It could be argued. Forwards, Will Evans, who's been a revelation this season. I think you, Stephen, tipped him off at the start of last season.
I did. I was a year ahead of everyone else.
Player of the
You peaked too
season.
soon.
I did. The story of my life.
I bet like teas and coffees in Tranmere, but there we go.
I know, yeah.
Too soon.
14 goals so far this season. Kieron Rye obviously scored that goal against Brentford to equalise Omar Bogle. 8 goals, 4 assists. Zanzalo, who we haven't seen yet this season, he's coming back from injury, and Seb Palmer Holden, who as for many other players has been season has been hit by injuries, just come back, scored a couple of goals and has done really, really well. Kieron, I'm going to come to you. Omar Bogle, obviously a bit of a controversial figure in the fan base, but this season, especially since Seb's come back, and we've played Will Evans, Bogle and Seb, he's dropped deeper. Now, a player that we've compared him to on this podcast, Harry Kane. 8 goals, 4 assists. Is that a fair comparison? What have you made of Omar Bogle being a little bit more deeper and a little bit more of a creative role?
I mean, he did it a lot last season, didn't he? He was creating things, and it's the thing that I really like about Omar Bogle. He does a lot more than just putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, he's really good at dribbling. He can find a pass. His positional awareness is really good, and I think comparing him to Harry Kane in that remark, you know, it is pretty accurate in that regard. But in terms of the attack, and this is one thing that I'll go back and credit the entire team for, the attack, when you look at it, and I don't know the statistics, so I'm not going to 100% credit it, but, you know, I wouldn't imagine that the attack have potentially as many goals as other areas in the team. So, you know, it's one of the things where the attack has been not overshadowed, but it's been paid up with a really solid team from the back all the way up to actually create goals, and it's been phenomenal to see the entire team get involved in goals rather than just the forwards. But yeah, in terms of Bogle, the League 2 Harry Kane, simple as.
Yeah, you've heard it here first. Yeah, just on that subject, we've got 27 goals from the forwards this season. 9 assists. So if you compare that to this time last year, we had 18 goals from the forwards and 4 assists.
Well, in terms of statistics, I was wrong then, wasn't I?
So,
but
yeah,
still though,
statistics lie.
Don't
worry,
statistics
Kieron.
lie. No, I think still it's a credit to the entire team, because a lot of them are getting involved with a lot more assists
definitely.
and a lot more direct goals, and in terms of statistics, you know.
Because you think about it, when we had somebody like Dom Telford, if he didn't score, then maybe we'd been in trouble.
Exactly.
So we haven't got that now.
Yeah, we've got a lot of players now that can chip in with a goal or so when we need it. Like we've credited Bryn Morris for. He doesn't score any easy goals, does he? So especially in that game against Stockport, for example, his goal, you know, don't get me wrong, we were pulling the pressure on, but you never really thought that we'd get the final touch or the finish, and there's been a lot of games like that throughout this season. But then all of a sudden, you know, he's come and hit a strike from outside the box, and it's went in the bottom corner. So,
and Stephen, for you, someone that you've said a lot of good things about, Seb Palmer Holden, same initials as you.
Same initials as me. Yep, all SPHs are quality. Yep.
A football or
just everything in life. Yeah, just everything. Yeah, we're just phenomenal, the pair of us.
He's back.
He's back. Yep.
You continuously say really positive things about him.
I do. Yep.
How good is he? And do you think there's a chance he could be recalled in January because of how good he has been? Or do you think Bristol City will think, I don't know how they're doing in the Championship, do you think he might go back in January because he's doing so well? He might not be getting the goals like Antoine Semenyo, someone we spoke about off air. He might not be getting the goals as Semenyo did that same season. But in terms of his link-up play and his effort and his commitment and things like that, talk to me.
I think in terms of Bristol City, I think they'll leave him where he is because he's playing every week and he's doing really, really well. So in terms of that, I'm not worried about that because hopefully the agreement is for the season. And if they wanted to keep him for January, they probably wouldn't have let him come back.
Yeah.
So, I think they're really, really happy with him at Newport County. Yeah. And like I said earlier, you realise how good somebody is when he's not there. Because when he went out to that attack, Newport had to change the way they played a bit. Because at the beginning of the season, you had him and Evans causing all sorts of problems with the movement. And they were like getting a really good understanding together. Then Bogle came in with Evans. So it kind of changed the dynamic. Now you've got, like you said, Bogle dropping deeper on times. But in the last match, Palmer Holden dropped deep and hit a beautiful crossfield pass.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It was an unbelievable pass. And I just think his movement, I think he's got the physicality for League Two as well, whereas Kavanagh and McNeil last season, the youngsters, they didn't really have that. I think the goals are going to come. I think he's going to get a lot more in the second half of the season with a clear run now from now until May. I'm really impressed with him.
Incredible. Just to answer the question of how Bristol City are doing in the Championship, I decided to pull up a Google search. They're 14th.
Okay.
I wouldn't imagine they'll be desperate to recall Seb Palmer Holden in that regard.
Lamsie, you got any thoughts on the Palmer Holden or attacking?
Oh, hello.
Go on.
Well, not so much on Seb because I think you've done that absolutely justice. What I would say that I have the luxury of listening back to the first podcast of the season after Graham Coughlin's one, and looking forward to the brand new season. And you two took some good players and left me with Seb, which I gleefully took off your hands.
Okay.
So,
you know who me and Stephen said is our ones to watch this season?
I can't remember. We need to go back and listen. I was more impressed that I had Seb. So there you go. I'm just going to leave that.
And what did you say about Seb?
There you go. He was just my one to watch.
Oh, right, okay.
He was my guy for the season.
Yeah.
So there you go. I selected him, probably by default, to be fair, but I did select him.
Well,
can we come back to Will Evans? Will Evans now is my number one on the team sheet.
Yeah.
Simple as. I think he is our number one striker, which I didn't see kind of the first years. You did, Stephen, clearly, but I didn't. I kind of thought
Stevie Cloppiola strikes again.
There he is. I thought that he was running around the pitch with a lot of endeavour, but not much end product. And I've seen a change in his game. I think we spoke about it a couple of episodes ago. So I'm not going to go too far over that territory. But for me, Will Evans has improved, and he is now our top striker.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's bizarre because he was playing a wing back for a good majority of last season. So to see him change to this striker and back to the topic about Seb Palmer Holden and Will Evans, I think they play really similar in terms of the runs they make, in terms of the kind of press they involve, and it is really realistically a nightmare for League Two defences, and it's why Will Evans has got so many goals and why I'm sure Seb Palmer Holden will get his form and he will catch up. But yeah, to see Will Evans go from this wing back to midfield to all the uncertainties of where he was actually positioned on the field last season compared to how he is now.
I'm sure he improved as well after he'd been on this podcast, which I think was a theme last season.
That's what it was, yeah.
Did you see this upturn in form almost coming from Will Evans at the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, to go from playing wing back, midfield, striker, not knowing where he played, to now all of a sudden being our top scorer and probably, other than Nick Townsend, the first name that you have on the team sheet, you can't say you expect that. And it's credit again to the scouting we make, because of course we got him from the Welsh leagues, and look at what he's turned into. Of course, we got Ferguson as well last season, and the Welsh leagues and the connections we have with the Welsh leagues is fantastic, and it brings a few gems, and Will Evans is one of those.
Yeah, and I think Graham and the coaching team deserve a lot of credit as well for that change 100%. Of the position. Yeah, he's much more focused now, and he's up front. He can run the channels. He can, So he's been an absolute phenomenon, hasn't he? Really.
Lamsie, what have we got coming up next?
Okay, Luke's favourite subject, and the big one that we're not going to spend too much time on, but we have to address it. What is next off the pitch for our club?
Do you need help with life's little financial emergencies? Newport Credit Union will help you through it. To find out more and to see how to join them, search online for Newport Credit Union.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.
Newport City Radio.
Look at his little eyes. It's like Christmas come early, literally, for Luke Lewis, because we get to talk about his favourite subject. Don't want to do too much on it, but we've looked back enough. Time to look forward in two reasons. So let's take transfers first. What are your expectations? So, Kieron, what would you like to see happen in this January transfer window?
I've spent a lot of time actually, searching into it, potentially what positions we need. And I'd imagine we'd like to go potentially to a back four, kind of stick with that. I think we've been a little bit more consistent with that, but being able to have the options to play a back three against certain oppositions that we may need it for is really important. So for that, I have said that we need one or two extra centre-backs just out of a depth position, depending on what we want to play and the injury records that we've had at the back. I've said that having an extra option up front as a striker, whether that be very similar to a Will Evans and Seb Palmer-Houlden and how they play, or whether it be more an Omar Bogle, deep lying and creating things necessarily, it'd be quite nice, especially given the fact that we may not have the realistically extra depth. If Seb Palmer-Houlden picks up another injury, you kind of go, how do you play with the similar intensity that we usually do? And like we mentioned earlier, when we lost Seb Palmer-Houlden, we noticed it and we felt it. So bringing someone in within that field would be quite nice, just to have that extra depth and the consistency with injuries this season. You don't really want to risk it going into the second half. And then if I'm going to be really kind of optimistic with deals, I wouldn't be overly upset given the already huge amounts of players we have within this kind of field of the pitch and how players can adapt. I'd quite like to see an extra potential creative midfielder, potentially similar to Bogle but a little bit further back. It'd be quite nice in my eyes to see that, just out of a way of, I think I would attack this season in contrast to last season. Last season for me was defence was better than attack. I think it's a lot the other way around this season, so I'd like to kind of see us go for score more goals than the opposition. I'd like to be solid at the back, but in terms of watching football, it's a lot funner to watch goals being scored. But yeah, if I'm being extra, optimistic and extra hopeful, a extra creative midfielder would be nice. But realistically, two centre-backs and a striker that either plays like Seb Palmer-Houlden or a Bogle, I'd be more than happy with.
It ties in what I said on the last podcast, which is I think sometimes we need to be 2 clear goals ahead and then try to learn how to manage the game out a little bit. So I kind of agree around that aspect.
Yeah, the funny thing, I was just going to say, the weird thing about that is I was just thinking, right, what do we need? And the first thing I wrote down was to move on maybe James Waite, either on loan and then to bring in, and as I finished writing it, you said a creative midfielder.
I've got to ask this question just quick, and this can be a thing that can be answered with a yes or no. Should Sam Bowen be recalled from his loan spell?
Yes, Cochrane said it's more than likely he's going to come back.
Oh, it'd be fantastic to see him back, given how well he's doing on loan.
Well, he kind of referenced it because there was the Jason Bowen game, and I kind of asked him what did it mean for him and for the club to represent that. He said it's a really good family affair and things like that, and he kind of hinted towards Sam coming back in January. Whether his loan is up and it's a 6-month loan, or whether it's a season-long loan with the option for him to be recalled, I don't know, but I think he is going to come back in January.
That's fantastic to hear, because evidently he had potential when we signed him, and there's a potential now, given how we play, that he fits in really well.
Yeah, he didn't really get much of a chance, did he? And he's done well, so he's obviously going to be full of confidence. Hopefully he can bring that confidence into the team. But yeah, I just think like when Wildig's missing, we're missing something. Yeah, and we're talking about these 4 players having movement. He's the guy that can find them with his passes, and I think somebody kind of around that kind of mould, if you can find one in January, good luck. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I think at the back, with everybody fit, I think I know Seabury's out for the
Yeah.
season, so maybe somebody on loan possibly to kind of cover for him. But I think we're probably okay at the back with everybody fit.
I think,
and
to me,
definitely another striker.
Yeah, I think to me the only reason I say 2 centre backs is the consistency we've had this season with picking up the injuries, and of course we know that Coughlin likes switching from a 4-back to a 3-back or a 5-back, whatever you want to say, really often.
He has said his preferred formation is a back 3.
A back 3? I mean, I think we have more success in that kind of regard with a back 3. You know, we've had it a little bit, but maybe I'm a bit naive in saying I prefer a back 4, just because I think in the entire time I've watched football, most setups regard around a back 3, or back 4 rather. But yeah, in terms of if we are to run a back 3, I think just having those extra options, even if they're just, you know, loan deals, it'd be quite nice to have, and have that selection headache even when injuries are occurring.
Now, the thing for me is, when I was doing my research, one thing I noticed is, obviously, you can only have a maximum of 5 loan players in the EFL matchday squad.
We've got 5, haven't we?
We've got 5. We've got Lewis Payne, we've got Adam Lewis, Seb Hammer-Holden, Matty Baker, and Matty Bonswell. So, I think we've got our hands tied behind our back a little bit in what we can do. You know, there's 5 really, really quality players there. So if you are going to bring someone else in on loan, either you send one of these players back,
or one of them doesn't get involved,
or one of them isn't involved on a match day.
Yeah, it's
which, you look at those 5 players, arguably they're all starters.
Could you sign any of them? And then would that return the space back?
I'd
Adam
imagine
Lewis,
so. Adam Lewis is out of contract, isn't he, at Liverpool? He was out of contract last summer, from what I remember, but he signed another year on.
Is that because it was injury?
His injury is the reason he was recalled back to Liverpool, to my knowledge. But yeah, I think he was out of contract in the summer at Liverpool. He was given another year, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory is correct. But, you know, don't quote me on this. And I think his contract's up again at the end of summer, and it all depends on whether, and this is really weird to say given the fact we're talking about Newport, whether Jurgen Klopp sees Adam Lewis as someone who will get involved with, you know, the first team at Liverpool, and if not, there is
Kloppiola?
I would say that he's got players in front of him. So and there's a couple in front of him.
I think
so his pathway to the first team is restricted.
It's very difficult, yeah.
But could we afford him?
It's a good question, isn't it?
We might have to.
We're under the Hugh Jenkins money, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, it does dovetail into the next part of the conversation, which is, you know, how urgently do we need this transfer of the club to go through?
Urgently. Graham Coughlin has said that we need players of real quality in January. He said a couple of times, and what he's been saying as well around that is, I think I'm sure he's got a plan in case it doesn't happen. But I'm sure in an ideal world, we all sit here 1st of January or 31st of January. Hugh Jenkins has taken over the club, and Newport County has spent money on. We've seen it last season with Gillingham, where they were bottom of the league. They had a new owner. They signed some really, really quality players, and then they were one of the best teams.
Brad Gallinson, if that's his name. It's something along those lines.
But yeah, I agree with the guys. I think we need at least another centre-back. When we went through position by position there, I said only Ryan Delaney is the only centre-back that hasn't got injured so far this season.
Yeah, that's...
So for me, I think we need at least one centre-back, whether that's a free agent, whether that's someone permanently that's not getting in at a League One team, maybe Championship team. Yeah, creative midfielder. Creative midfielder we need, whether that be someone in the mould of Aaron Wildig or someone in the mould, maybe even like a Ollie Cooper kind of player.
Oh, you know what he's going to say next.
No, are we going to... Is it Christmas twine?
It's Christmas twine.
It's not. It's Cameron Congreve time.
I've signed him on Football Manager a few times. Callum Congreve.
Yes, he's someone to potentially look at. I know Coughlin, I had a chat to him after Wales under-21s against Iceland under-21s. So I'm sure he was potentially looking at one or two players then. I know Luke Harris at Fulham played well then, Ruben Caldwell, but I think he's just broken back
he's
into
broken
the Cardiff
into the Cardiff team, isn't he?
team. There was one or two players there that I think he might have his eye on, and then obviously forwards. I agree, Zanzala. I don't think we can really rely on him being fit, and outside of the three forwards, we haven't really got much. Kieron Wright is still developing.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw him in too quick, do you?
No.
Because otherwise it could kill his confidence if he doesn't have
I think we need another striker again, whether that's a free agent, whether we look to the Welsh League again, whether we look to wherever. But yeah, I think we need at least another striker, maybe even two, if it's just for squad depth alone.
Well, as you might have guessed, we can talk for days, but we do have to call it a day on this particular episode of Look Back in Amber. We're home to Forest Green Rovers on Boxing Day at 1:30pm with the All Request Disco in the marquee, match at 3 o'clock, and the same on Friday, 6:15pm in the marquee with a 7:45pm kick-off. Kieron, thanks for joining us.
No worries,
It's been
an absolute
really
pleasure.
different and really nice
thank
for
you,
us.
Kieron.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kieron.
Happy Christmas to all of you.
Yep, happy
And
Christmas.
you, Mr. Lamsie, and you.
And we will be back, but we'll say all the best for the new year as well. Thank you for taking time out to listen to us today. As always, we'd love to read your thoughts about our thoughts on Facebook, X and Instagram via direct message. We're also on email, contact@newportcityradio.org. We will catch you at 2pm on Saturday, the 30th of December, with a double review. More talking points, more banter and more top class analysis.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now. Newport City Radio.